Welcome to my show. I'm a guest here. Her name is Angela Ashwin. Mrs. Angela, how are you doing, ma?
How I'm doing? Yeah, well, thank you.
All right, thank you so much for the time and the opportunity, Mrs. Angela. Firstly, you are an author. You are also a senior yoga teacher. Can you please, Mrs. Angela, discuss more about yourself and how you are doing currently now, Mrs. Angela?
Yeah, so I came across yoga when I was in my early 20s and was from that first moment hooked on. Basically, knew this is my life, this is my world. Started, I did a university degree in Germany, but then I moved to England and became a yoga teacher. And since then, I am teaching. So I'm teaching since maybe 35 years now or something like that. And sort of then I had children, and when they were sort of school age, I started to train as a teacher trainer. And for over 20 years, I trained yoga teachers. Now I'm coming into a place where I feel I'd rather write a little bit more and gradually sort of cut down more. And all the experience I've gathered over the last decades, really, I thought it would be good to get a bit out. And yeah, the book is part of it.
There is nothing more beautiful than to have a career to be built as a very early age. And as a person who has built a career at a very early age, is very impressive. And you've been doing it for more than 70 years, which means that you had the whole experience. And it is also very beautiful as a person to try to give that slow down because you know the kind of world that we are now, a lot of pressure out there. Give that kind of slow down and try one best to write a book that will definitely also make people outside to definitely be aware and also learn very important thing you've learned in recent years, many years ago, that you can definitely make them to also give an insight and also learn from. And that's why I would like to drive to your book, Pranayama Lost in Translation. Can you please, Mrs. Angela, discuss more on that book? And do you please have more books you are planning to write in the coming future, Mrs. Angela?
It depends on how this book is going. I have a lot of ideas. I've written a sort of a script on the Bhagavad Gita that could be another book, or I have another idea of taking that book, Pranayama Lost in Translation, a little bit further into the whole idea of that yoga is actually not working with our physical body, but with the deeper planes. That depends on what happens with my life, what happens with this book, and yeah, so I hope it does get out. People will know about it and be interested in hearing a bit more.
Definitely beautiful. We have to definitely look at the present. We have to definitely see how the thing emerged. If it's emerged well, then that's will give the motive to see the ideas one has had in the historic time to bring again for the people to also learn more regarding those perspectives, which is a very, very beautiful one. And also that is why I also like to dive to that point. Pranayama. Even I myself, when I first saw it, I had to try my best to get some research regarding that name. So for listeners who are new to this term called pranayama, what do you think exactly is pranayama? And how do you think it is
Yeah,
different from general breathwork or mindfulness, Mrs. Angela?
yeah. So pranayama is a Sanskrit word and consists two words, prana and ayama. Ayama is the easier term. Ayama means expanding. Prana is a word which is difficult in non-Indian cultures to understand what it really means. It is basically life. Prana is set, which when entering an organism makes this organism alive, when that is an element. And that element, a subtle element, that entering a organism that becomes an alive being, whether it's a human, an animal, a plant, or whatever, and there is a moment when this prana leaves this organism again, and that is death. So that is the aliveness, life within. In a Western culture, we only speak about things we see and can touch. You can't see life, but it's obvious that there is life. One of the most obvious things, but you don't talk about it at all. And it's one of those terms where people have generally problems. I remember when I did all this teacher training, the students had to write essays. They had to write essays about loads and loads of things about yoga, One essay title was Right about Prana, and that was the one they had most problems with. Because what is that really? This unsubstantial whatever. And when yoga first came, or was yoga texts or yoga teachings came to the West, this word prana and pranayama needed to be translated. And that word prana was therefore translated with the word breath. And that caused what I found in my book the main problem breath. So you're working with oxygen, you're working with airflow, you're working with respiration. It certainly not can't then not be understood as a spiritual practice. It was then understood as a therapy, as a health practice. It's good to get a good respiratory system to breathe well so that your respiratory health is good. But that has nothing to do with the original prana. Pranayama is a movement, an expanding of life within our bodies in a subtler layer. This subtler layer, prana needs to be expanded because it's blocked up. We can speak later on about what that is, maybe they're blocked up, but we need a sort of a practice in order to expand the life fully into us. When we don't do this, we are not really aware of our whole bodily system. We don't feel alive in our body. People often refer to me and my body. This is when the prana isn't expanded. If you experience yourself as like being an entity of a conscious entity in a like a vehicle, like a driver in a car, that would be me and my body. That is a sign that prana is not expanded, that I don't feel alive, growing, changing. And the pranayama is that process to get there.
Definitely inspiring. That shows that that prayer, pranayama has been something that has been in the yoga perspective a long time ago. It's just that people do not really know that that is how the definition is. It has been in a position whereby it has been explained more further with to get to a point whereby people do not really know what that even the pranayama really means. And it's definitely
Yeah.
something that we definitely need. We need to know how we could work on our breath so that we can definitely expand and see how we can see the surrounding around us. It is very important for us.
Yeah. You ask what the difference to breathwork and mindfulness is. Yeah. Um, Pranayama is a movement of life force in the body. The reason why it has been associated more with breath is it moves in the same rhythm as the breath. As we inhale, prana sits in the navel center, is expanding out. As we exhale, the life force moves back in. That is that process of purifying our subtle body. So the link is the rhythm. There's a body rhythm, and in that body rhythm is respiration and also pranayama and other things. That's the difference between breath work. We are not working with oxygen and lungs, and we are moving with that subtle, working with that subtle element. The difference to mindfulness is, I mean, mindfulness is absolutely needed for pranayama, otherwise it's not working. Mindfulness is a formulation which was created only recently when people in the West notice that we are actually not mindful. We don't realize what's actually happening out as well as within. And then it was discovered that basically the yoga practice, and particular form of yoga practice which was developed in the Buddhism of meditation, would be useful to become more mindful. So what mindfulness is just be alert, be very alert and see what's going on. And if we haven't got that mindfulness, we will not be able to do pranayama because it's not a mechanic exercise of doing this and that. It is the process of being fully alert of your inner experience and slightly change it.
That shows that there are a lot of things we need to work on before we can get to that point of pranayama. You understand? There are a lot of work we can add in ourselves, breath, and also a lot of things we need to work on. When we are gotten to a point, then we can get to a point whereby pranayama can definitely be done for us, which has also answered the question that I want to bring to us because people have to definitely work on some certain areas before they can get to that certain point. And also, people would like to know this pranayama is something that we definitely do not know, but now I think I have the sense of it. What can I personally say is the benefits of something like this? What can I say will benefit me in the long term or in a short term? Or what do I think is also going to be able to help me in regarding some areas in my personal life. So, what do you think are some of the known mental and physiological benefits of regular pranayama practice according to both tradition and science, Mrs. Angela?
Mm. Yeah. So if you say science, science doesn't speak about the real pranayama, only about breathing. And if you do breathing practice, the result is that you get a better mental health, you get a better respiratory system, you can breathe better, you can exercise better. But that is not the approach of the Indian pranayama. The Indian yogis, when teaching pranayama, did not consider benefits, health benefits. All the practices, we know this from the posture work, the asana, and or meditation, and they have enormous health benefit. But that was secondary importance. The whole importance of the whole yoga path was a spiritual path, and it was to lead eventually to self-realization, which is something which is there is also the word enlightenment, self realization. It is something which is in the yoga word nearly a taboo to use this word. That is what the original idea is. What am I really? What am I made out of? Through the understanding and of pranayama and the ability of lead these pranic forces, I can use my posture work in a much more effective way. And I feel now, in particular, when I watch other people doing asana, I just feel they just move the outer form a little. It doesn't go in, it doesn't transform them within. And they firstly don't feel that beautiful in life, which you can do through yoga practice. And secondly, yeah, they are not in the experience of what is that to be a living being.
Yes, as a practice like that pranayama, it is something that has been from our ancient time, and it is not really from the western area. So it's something that when someone knows the background of it, one definitely understand better what the value and the benefit it is. And as a person that you've been into the world and you've definitely seen the benefit and you've definitely been practicing it, you've seen how impressive and how improve how it definitely helps. And to give that translation to make people understand that this is how it definitely works. And as a person who wants to get into this type of practice, there are a lot of things we have to work on regarding ourselves, regarding our breath work, regarding our practice, so that we can get to a point whereby we can get to put that pranayama into practice and definitely and use it to build ourselves to become a better person who will be into this yoga, because yoga gives healing. It gives this inner healing, it gives this inner sense, and it gives this kind of strength. I definitely imagine it gives this kind of strength that we definitely need to definitely do a lot of things that we cannot even imagine. As you said earlier, there are some things that the life we live currently is like more of this invisible or something like that. So we have to now to conquer it with this kind of practice. Is something very is a very good to definitely help. And also I would like to dive to your book, um, Pranayama Lost in Translation. From your book, Mrs. Angela, what do you think is the core message of your book? The deeper truth about breathwork that you hope every reader or listeners definitely walks away with, Mrs. Angela.
Mhm. So that is on the blurb of the book here. Here is the book. There is a nice summary. That is actually what the editor did, but I found there is one sentence here which is really striking. And it says, "We seem to have forgotten what yoga is and where it comes from. In a way, we stole yoga from India and pretend it was ours." That's for the Westerner, really. And that is one of the main message which I want to give. Yoga, I mean, in the introduction, I think, story of having a school visit, year-old boy, and that was just a sort of a bring young people and people of all ages together. And then he asked me what I was doing, and I said, "Oh, yoga," and he knows what it is. And I talked a bit about yoga, and then I said something about India, and he said, well, what India? Why India?" And I said, "Yoga comes from India," and he said, "Really? I never knew about it." So I thought, okay, this is a 15-year-old boy there. She doesn't know. Then a teacher came along, a lady in her mid 40s, and the boy said to her, we're just talking about yoga. And the lady said, oh, I love yoga. I do yoga all the time. I visit all the classes. And then the boy said, I was just astonished that I didn't know that yoga came from India. And the teacher said, oh, I didn't know yoga came from India. And that was quite interesting. And the boy himself said, that is twisted. And we think yoga is stretching muscles. We think yoga is showing beautiful bodies and standing on the beach or in whatever places. Yoga is something entirely different. And that is one way on the book, via the entrance of the pranayama, where I want to show people yoga is something entirely different. Go and look. There's something much more precious there than what we in the West show. And I
Mm.
hope some people get the message.
They will definitely do, honestly speaking. And that is the truth. We cannot, 100% compare the roots by the people who definitely just pick it and just use it to do a lot of things. The roots is where the truth is. There are a lot of beautiful things regarding that root, and the most beautiful thing is India as a country. That is where the root is. They just pick some, and that is what they do. They will just pick some and bring it to the west, and they know that it's very important for every single person and use. And if we can just check deeper, we see how beautiful, we see how tremendously inspiring it is. Even this pranayama that you're speaking about, I never even knew about it as a person who even say I have, I usually say I have passion for yoga, stuff like that. And that shows how deep yoga is. That shows that there are a lot of things that there are a lot of healing regarding that perspective that can help us in many ways, whether it's in the stomach or giving to free ourselves. There are a lot of it, and we have to just try our best. This is not easy. Let us just try our best to check the roots. And that is why I love the book you brought out regarding those perspectives, regarding most especially the point of pranayama, to make people understand what it is and how they can also use it to help themselves regarding their breathwork, and also help themselves to become more calmer and having more peace regarding the body that they've had in their life. And there's also a question I normally ask during the end of the show, Mrs. Angela. From our forefathers, from our ancestors, there are a lot of beautiful things that do exist during our ancestral time that is missing in our time today. If there is anyone or anything you would like to bring back to our time today, Mrs. Angela, what do you think that thing will be, Mrs. Angela?
To get rid of the human arrogance that we are all there is and we are the masters of this planet and we understand everything. Become humble. See what there is. Experience that there is an unexplicable life force. Experience that there are powers behind this universe which we referred in previous time in all cultures, which we are now poo-pooing on. Not just thinking I, and that's the most important thing in the whole universe. We are nothing. We are just a little grain in the big play of divine powers, and they're totally arrogance of sitting in this narrow view. Just a little story that was about 2 weeks ago. I was at a wedding of a nephew of mine, and the main speech was given by a Protestant vicar. And he was asked to talk about a poem, and in the poem there was the word God. And the Protestant vicar came to this place where the word God was and apologized and said, oh, this is an old poem. Some people talked about God then. Today we talk about happiness and community with us. A Protestant vicar needs to apologize to use the word God. And I just thought, who else should if you can't? Can't we see that we are just tiny flocks being held by something much grander? Can't we see this? No, we are. And then what is the result? If we see us as so important, we destroy the planet, and that's we are now, and ourselves with it.
Beautiful. I completely agree. The world that we are living in, I feel like we're just like the tool. There are a lot of divine power around us that we can definitely feel. I, as a person, I usually normally feel it, and it is that is how the world is. We have to understand these little things. We are just like nothing, because let us imagine the last years or recent thousands of years. We see the development, and now we are in a phase that shows that those people that have developed it, they are just like the tool, and those things they are just. I just feel like there's a lot of forces that are just there that are above us. We shouldn't feel like we are the one that have every no. Humility is important. It won't take anything away from us. If we are
Mhm.
humble, we show kindness to each other, I think the world will
Yep.
be in a very better place. Is what we
Mhm.
need. This world is not for us. Even if God, even if I'm even brought, even if I am opportuned to be at the top, that hey, this guy is everywhere. I know I am not the one. I know there is
Mhm.
something behind it. I know
Yeah.
that is just the truth, and that thing definitely knows what he or she or the reason he picked me to get to that point, and he also know what he wants to gain out of it, and that is the beauty. We are just like the tool to just bring out the visibility of the world, and we need to use that with humility, kindness, so that what one do for us, we could definitely do it for others, and also try our best to lift other up to definitely make the world a better place. Yoga is very beautiful. I
Yeah.
100% agree. It's very beautiful. And getting
Mm.
more sense and understanding it more better, there is nothing more beautiful than that. Because if one has loved someone, something, the best is one to just definitely try to look more regarding that. And I love the book you've written, which talk about something that people do not really know outside. Pranayama. Very beautiful.
Mhm.
I also want to honestly, from the bottom of my heart, thank you for the time and the opportunity and the patience, because I know it's definitely not easy. I should that shows that you are definitely a very humble and kind person. So thank you so much for the time, the opportunity, and giving the time to speak on this topic. Thank you so much, Mrs. Angela.
You're giving me the opportunity. Thank you very much.
All right, Mrs. Angela. Have a wonderful day, Mrs. Angela. Bye bye.
Bye bye.